Before and after. First, this riverfront. First, this riverfront supplied berries and salmon to the Chinook tribe. Then it grew crops, yeah, that's right, for Fort Vancouver and the Vancouver barracks. Okay, I can't keep that up. Then in 1865, Lowell M. I mean, maybe it was easier to talk that way. Damn, I'm not sure. Assume a persona of a different character and then talk in that manner. That's just crazy, man. That's crazy. Nobody should do that. That indicates a serious mental problem. You should very much not do that, because that's bad, you see. And you know, that sort of stuff. That's the sound of the men working on the spray gang. That's the sound of the men working on the spray gang. Alright, anyway, can we be serious for a minute here? Fucking with my video. Isn't that annoying? The area that was to be transformed into the Kaiser shipyard of World War II was used as a dairy farm in the peaceful years prior to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Yeah, right. Yet. Is that the town? I mean, what can you see in there? That's fairly good road set. That's a lot of stuff. I mean, and what's that way in the back over here? I mean, is that even... I don't know. It's a crazy picture. But look at the shipyards. I mean, they're pretty big. You know? All this clean stuff. These buildings look like they're 4 stories, but one of them's kind of in the ground. If you notice that. It's not super noticeable, but... And there was a whole lot of steel scrap being processed. And over here we got a train track that goes across the river and then across Sophie's Island and goes to St. John's, Portland. Something like that. And then right here's what the ferry would be, close by here. Then in January 1942, miracle builder Henry J. Kaiser came to town to make deals for the government. Oh my God. He leased 100 acres from the Hidden Brick Company, the Hidden Hand family, and bought another 100 from the Boss family. The Boss? What? The Hidden and the Boss? Come on. You're joking, right? The land would become a shipyard to build ships for the U.S. war effort in the Pacific, a war the United States intended to win. The Kaiser shipyard changed the face of the waterfront. The shipyard closed and sold after the war, later evolved into the modern business park you see today. So Kaiser remade the entire Vancouver area, probably, yeah, at least this side of the river. But remnants of the existing shipyard remain, including some of the shipways marked by concrete walls extending into the river just west of here. Look closely and you might also pick out original buildings and crane among newer warehouses and offices. Really? Okay, moving right along. The Kaiser story. He kind of looks reptilian to me. It's a strange feeling. 2 men, a successful industrialist and his son, lent their name and their expertise to the government to help win World War II. One result was the huge Vancouver shipyard known locally as the Kaiser Shipyard. Constructed at record speed, the shipyard turned out nearly 1 war vessel each week in support of the war effort. I wonder if there's... Where do they get all the metal? The son of German immigrants, Henry J. Kaiser already had established a worldwide reputation as a builder of ships, roads, and dams when he announced in January 1942 his plans to construct ships in Vancouver. His son Edgar F. Kaiser and his family took residence in Vancouver to oversee the local operation and make certain everything ran smoothly. Born in 1882, Henry Kaiser left his Whitesboro, New York home at the age of 12 to make his own, way. It's like, I'm going to make my own way in the world. After a succession of low-paying jobs, young Kaiser made his way west and went into the gravel and cement business. There's a lot of that around here, like smashing rocks and stones and blocks and stuff up into gravel, and then paving and doing that sort of stuff. Paving roads with gravel. Henry J. Kaiser, second from left, and his son, Edgar Kaiser, third from left, met with Franklin D. Roosevelt, so you know they're good, on September 23rd, 1942, when FDR made a surprise visit to Vancouver. Look at that. FDR. Look, he's got a black eye. FDR with a black eye. He made to Vancouver, and that is his black eye. Oh, look at these guys. You know what? They got black eyes, too. Look at that shit. Black eye, not black eye. This got a black eye there, but not there. That guy's got two black eyes. This guy, maybe he's okay. But good old FDR, straight up, he got socked in the eye by the Prime Minister. Alright, Kaiser and his wife Bess formed their own business in 1914 and eventually watched it grow into a giant road construction firm. The Kaisers branched out into dam construction and played major roles in building Hoover, Bonneville, and Grand Coulee dams. The Bonneville had an old world town there. They completely removed and destroyed the town to put the spillway in the dam right there. Kaiser got into shipbuilding in Richmond, California in 1940. When America entered World War II, he quickly added shipyards in Vancouver and Portland. The yards delivered a total of 1,490 vessels. The Vancouver operation became most famous for producing 50 baby flat tops. These were essentially cargo ships with flight decks designed for convoy protection. Each vessel was capable of carrying and launching 37 planes. More than 1 million men and women worked at Kaiser shipyards here and elsewhere sometime during the war. To meet the housing and healthcare needs of the shipyard workers, Kaiser arranged housing and medical care. Edgar Kaiser, who had joined his father's firm in 1930, became chairman of the board of Kaiser Industries after the elder Kaiser died in 1967. Edgar Kaiser died in 1981. You can see the resemblance, though. The legacy. That kind of resembles old Rocky Butte in a way, or whatever that. When Japan surrendered in August 1945, ending World War II, the Kaiser shipyard ceased business. Thousands of suddenly jobless workers began to return to their homes across the nation. Many others, however, elected to remain in Clark County, turning to peacetime pursuits. As work at the shipyard tapered off, enrollment in the workers' health plan also declined. In response to requests from ex-shipyard workers who had found peacetime jobs, Kaiser Permanente opened its doors in 1945. So, like, sick workers from welders were needing some health care, and that's so like, oh yeah, we had you all weld all this stuff up, and they messed you all up, and well, guess we'll help you now. That's what I gain out of that. Today, this group practice health maintenance organization is the largest in the United States. Group practice health maintenance organization. Maintenance doesn't say health improving or health optimizing. It's just maintaining it at a certain desired level, I would think. The Vancouver Housing Authority, of course, which had constructed and operated 6 large communities for shipyard workers, continues to offer public housing here. This is a Kaiser automobile. The prototype of this 48 Kaiser was made in secrecy in a building at the Kaiser shipyard as World War II came to an end. The car of the future. Kaiser car. I think they were getting that in secret because in case, Germany won the war, they could come out with the Kaiser right away, the newest in the automobile. Okay, the first Kaiser hospital, located on the hillside just northeast of the shipyard, went under construction June 1st, 1942. From the shipyard. Why don't I've never seen that building before? I do not believe it's there anymore. It's got that look. You got that mud flooded look. My school had something like that one of them I went to. Trivia. Okay, so what we got? Kaiser automobile. A shipbuilding tradition. Is that the Waban again? Look at that thing. Look at that. That's a beast. That was downtown Portland, I bet you. Melted down and hammered into a ship. The Kaiser shipyard followed a tradition started near this site in early as the mid-1800s with shipbuilding activity at Fort Vancouver. The city's earliest war boom came when the United States entered World War I in 1917. In a yard just downstream from the Interstate Bridge, the Standifer Company built ships for the federal government. That yard was hailed as the only yard in the world where steel, wooden, and concrete ships were built at the same time. During frenzied activity between 42 and 46, the yard built and sent off to war 141 vessels of several types, including aircraft carriers, Liberty ships, LSTs, landing ships, tanks, and transport and cargo ships. Crazy. Remnants of these 12 shipways where warship hulls were rapidly built and launched are immediately west of this site. That would be that way. Word sense. Whirly cranes played an important role at the outfitting dock where workers finished ships after launching. Whirly crane. That looks like it would be fun. Mrs. George M. Wolfe christening ships at Kaiser Shipyard. Now they is right. I'll get you, my potato. Section of flight deck and CVE escort, carrier baby flat top. They're putting a spoiler on the back of that ship. It's gonna that's what it looks like. The interior view, Kaiser Plate Shop. Plating? Oh yeah, they have big old a double launching of LSTs 156, 157, 10th of October 1942. That's a pretty big boat. Now that's a propeller. Son of a, built like an aircraft or I'm gonna say an airship. It almost looks like the way the hull is, similar. Ship propeller. Very nice. Eleanor's visit. When Eleanor Roosevelt came to town, everybody turned out. The date was April 5th, 1943. And the occasion was the launching of the first escort aircraft carriers that would be built at the Kaiser shipyard during World War II. With an estimated 75,000 shipyard workers visiting, dignitaries and residents watching, Mrs. Roosevelt, wife of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, stood at the bow of the USS Alizon Bay. In her hand was a bottle of champagne festooned with ribbons. Below her, shipyard workers with torches cut into metal ties holding the big ship. There was a slight quiver of motion in the tons of steel. Mrs. Roosevelt's voice rang out clearly. I christened the Alizon Bay. Wine from the smashed bottle foamed over the bow of the vessel and soaked the First Lady's dress. Oh my goodness, what a scandal. Thousands cheered as the great ship slid into the Columbia River and began its journey to war. Oh, isn't that special? Later, the name of the vessel was changed to USS Casablanca. Oh, they changed the name after christening it? Does that mean symbolically the first ship, the Alizon Bay, died symbolically and its name was changed then to the Casablanca? The greatest crowd in the history of Clark County to that date cheered as Eleanor Roosevelt christened the Alizon Bay. I never knew that. Great. Rosie, where would we be without Rosie the Riveter? I could have done her. She's kind of cute. They called her Rosie the Riveter, and she helped transform the role of women from that time on. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. December 7th. Dun, 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 dun. Thousands of women locally and across the nation laid aside their aprons and office typewriters and pitched into the war effort. They picked up welding masks and pipe fitter tools and joined their husbands on the production lines at the Kaiser shipyard. That sounds like a recipe for success. For the first time in local history, women found themselves working beside men as equals, doing the same jobs and getting the same pay. Wow. Who knew that was groundbreaking here in Vancouver? Typically, a newly hired woman was sent to school to learn flat, vertical, horizontal, and overhead welding. Well, that's the general types of welding techniques anybody would need to learn. It makes a lot of sense. Then outfitted in leather protective clothing. We definitely got to outfit them in leather protective clothing because that's, necessary to do the job safely. And welding hood. She reported to work on the graveyard shift at $1.20 an hour. Why graveyard shift? That sucks. That's not very nice. I guess it was slower, maybe. I don't know. It was a hectic life for the women. Many of them had to continue running their own households while helping to build warships. I hardly looked up and rarely looked around when Rosie commented later, well, that's lame. I was working and cooking and doing laundry for 3 men, husband, son, and brother. I didn't have any time for anything else. During the war, the company estimated the contribution by women workers was equal to the construction of 14 ships. Wow. Okay. At the peak of employment at the Kaiser shipyard in 1943, some 10,000 women were on payroll. That's a lot of women working in one place. 10,000. That's so scary. There were 28,000 men. Yeah, that's even scary. It was estimated 250,000 women worked at Kaiser various shipyards sometimes during the war. Few women worked as electricians before wartime needs called them to new jobs. She's putting up a light. She's clearly putting an arc welding rod on the anode. I think it's the anode. Is that the anode? I don't remember. So, this picture is interesting though. These are the community explodes. As the pleasant and sunny Sunday of December 7, 1941 dawned, Vancouver was a peaceful community of 18,000 people. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and the subsequent declaration of war by the United States changed all that. Within months, an influx of people recruited from around the nation for the Kaiser shipyard tripled the city's population to jam more than 100,000 people into the greater Vancouver area. To meet the sudden demand, the Vancouver Housing Authority formed, holding its first meeting February 7, 1942. Within 18 months, the local agency, financed by the federal government, had acquired 1,600 acres and started 6 new communities in and around the city. So that Vancouver was jammed to the limits during World War II. Tens of thousands of shipyard workers spent their pay at local stores, restaurants, and taverns. Well, no wonder this place was booming so much back then. Oh my God. And all the families that had those jobs, if they had any brains, they went out and bought hundreds, if not thousands, of acres. It was like dirt cheap. Literally less than dirt cheap. Within months, the wartime housing communities of McLaughlin Heights, I just heard McLaughlin was a creepy guy. I'll check him out. Ogden Meadows, Fruit Valley, Bagley Downs, Burton Homes, and Fourth Plain Village, with a combined population of about 45,000, had become much larger than the city itself. The VHA also built 5 shopping centers, 8 schools, 8 community centers, and 7 child care centers, fire stations, and police stations. Vancouver would never return to its former small-town status. I'm going to have to look into their other buildings they built. I wonder if they had this kind of... Look at the Hudson House, a wartime housing project built east of the shipyard. Housed hundreds of workers. It was struck by fire on November 13th, most likely a Friday, leaving 7 dead and 16 injured. What's that add up to? Wait a minute. 7, 14, 13, 23? It adds to 23. Yeah, 23. Okay, this is a big complex here. And then up here on the hill, there's kind of more of the same. That's the building from earlier. So this was the housing, and this is 3 stories. Looks like, yeah. But the third one's in the ground. Crazy. And since how it's still going at 2020, we didn't get the third story here. Somebody blackened her eyes. That's terrible. Bond Drive won her most popular title. Marjorie Bickford started work at the Vancouver shipyards riding a motor scooter. She wound up launching a ship. Mrs. Bickford started work at the shipyard on November 27, 1942 as a messenger. Her job was to ride her scooter from one building to another delivering messages. I was one of the last ones to leave when the shipyard closed. Mrs. Bickford said I was terminated in July 1946. During the peak of activity, the shipyards held a war bond drive tied to popularity contests. 16 young women involved sought pledges from fellow workers to buy bonds. Vancouver Seek's most popular girl was the headline in the how sexist in the Bows and Whistle, the shipyard publication. The most popular girl turned out to be Mrs. Bickford at that time, Marjorie Zimmerman. Marjorie Zimmerman, where'd she come from? By getting the most bond pledges, Mrs. Bickford got to christen a ship, the Francis N. Blanchett, named for an early Catholic priest in this area. She broke a bottle of champagne across the bow as the vessel slid down the waves. I was warned to take a big swing, Mrs. Bickford recalled. I did. The port captain told me I hit the ship so hard that it got stuck in the mud on the other side of the river. Ha ha ha. Along with being chosen most popular girl at the shipyard, Mrs. Bickford got another extra benefit by working there. This is where she met her husband, Gail. It was a fun time, she concluded. The recruited. Come out to Vancouver. You can make as much as $10 a day. This invitation was catalyst for the greatest migration of workers to Clark County in its history. The Kaiser shipyard in the 1940s eventually employed 38,000 workers recruited from across the nation. Henry Kaiser promised them a job, housing through the Vancouver Housing Authority, of course he don't pay for that shit, and medical care, now called the Kaiser Permanent Day Health Care Program. The Permanent Caesar. I should say that's what I said. Now called the Permanent Caesar Healthcare Program. They streamed in from New York, the Deep South, the Midwest, from just about everywhere. Look at that diverse crowd of white people. We got white people from the East and white people from the South, and it looks like some white people from the Northeast as well. That's some diversity. Some big ships. Okay. The roles they played. Kaiser brought invitations to shipbuilding with standardized patterns and speedy production line. Workers were highly specialized. Lossmen developed ship plans from blueprints to full-size patterns and templates. Welders used electric arcs to fuse metal basic to shipbuilding. Very good. Painters involved from priming to final application of battleship gray. Shipwrights laid out holes, ways, grinders, they sharpen tools and smooth stuff. Blacksmiths forged metals by heating and hammering. Ship fitters, you're a ship fitter, made layout forms and templates for ship sections that could not be prefabricated. Riggers fastened lifting gear on steel plates and materials, and guided crane operators. Burners cut metal for plates and other parts. Sheet metal workers cut through and bent light metal assembled parts and fabricated items such as ship funnels. Riveters used pneumatic guns to drive rivets. A Liberty ship had more than 20,000 rivets. Teamsters drove trucks and hauled material. Machinists machined working parts and installed them on ships. Electricians installed electrical wiring and equipment. Chippers used pneumatic tools to smash whole plates and other parts. Pipe fitters installed pipes for water and fuel. Bilge and ballast. Crane operators ran cranes to move materials and parts. The end. He's ready for war. Alright. And that brings us full circle. Some crazy shit. Probably gonna run out of battery soon, so. This is one of those, similar to those buildings over there. Kaiser car. Crazy. Alright. That's it. Carry on.